Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. I was sitting at the dining table, still holding my glass of water, when my mother-in-law leaned forward, narrowed her eyes, and said in the sharpest voice I've ever heard, "She's having an affair." At first I thought maybe I had misheard. The clinking of silverware, the low hum of my husband's cousins chatting, the background music playing from the kitchen, it all blurred together. But no, I hadn't misheard. She said it again, louder, clearer, like she was announcing the dinner special at a restaurant. "She's cheating on you." Every head at the table snapped toward me. My stomach dropped as if the chair had vanished beneath me. My palms grew slick against the glass, and my ears started ringing, not from the room's noise, but from the sheer disbelief boiling inside me. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My husband's fork froze halfway to his mouth, his eyes darting from her to me. It felt like being drenched with a bucket of ice water in front of an audience. I forced a swallow, tried to keep my face neutral, but inside my chest, my heart was slamming against my ribs so hard I thought it would bruise. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. Instead, I managed a small laugh, the kind you use when you're not sure if something is a joke or the opening line of a nightmare. "Come again?" I asked, though my voice cracked halfway through. My mother-in-law didn't blink. She sat straighter, pearls around her neck, catching the chandelier light. "Don't act innocent. We all know. I saw the messages." The room went dead silent. Even the kids, usually running circles through the living room, stopped and peeked around the doorway. I wanted to say 100 things at once. What messages? What are you talking about? How dare you? But all that came out was a faint, "Excuse me?" My throat was so dry it hurt. My husband set down his fork, his knuckles whitening. His gaze shifted to me, not with anger yet, but with something worse, doubt. That tiny shadow of suspicion burned hotter than any accusation, and in that instant, something inside me snapped. Not in the screaming, throwing plates kind of way. Number. This was quieter, sharper, a decision. I let out a slow breath, lifted my napkin, and placed it gently on the table like I was just excusing myself to the restroom. "You really want to do this here?" I asked. My voice didn't shake this time. That surprised me. It sounded calm, almost too calm, like it belonged to someone else entirely. Her lips curved into a small, victorious smile. "If the shoe fits." My hands were trembling under the table, but I pressed them against my knees until the shaking stopped. In my head, everything was racing. Every past comment she had made, every whispered jab, every look designed to make me feel like an intruder in my own marriage. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. I pushed back my chair. The screech of wood against tile made everyone flinch. "All right then," I said. "Let's talk about proof." I could feel the tension vibrating across the room. My husband's eyes widened. My father-in-law cleared his throat, but he didn't say a word. Even the cousins pretended to study their plates, though their ears were practically reaching across the table. In that moment, the air was so thick I could barely inhale. My chest rose and fell like I had just sprinted a mile. I reached for my phone in my bag, my fingers closing around it like a lifeline. The funny thing about betrayal or false accusations in this case is that it doesn't explode with fire. It freezes you first. Makes you feel like time has slowed into thick syrup. I saw every detail, the glint of the chandelier on the silverware, the faint smell of roasted garlic drifting from the kitchen, the sound of someone's nervous cough. And I knew down to the marrow that this wasn't just another jab from my mother-in-law. This was her attempt to shatter me, right in front of the one person I loved most. I locked eyes with her. She smirked, as if daring me to speak. My husband shifted uncomfortably, his chair squeaking. I smiled back, not the warm kind, the kind that says, "You picked the wrong battlefield." "You say you have messages?" I asked. She blinked, clearly not expecting me to confront her head-on. "That's right," she said, her voice dripping with triumph. I tapped my phone against the table once, a soft thud, steadying myself. Good, because so do I. Her face faltered, just a fraction, enough to notice. Inside, my heart was still pounding, my breath shallow, my skin prickling with adrenaline. But outwardly, I leaned back in my chair, casual, like we were about to compare grocery lists. The cousins exchanged looks. My father-in-law coughed again. My husband's brow furrowed as he looked from me to her and back. I hadn't revealed a single thing yet, but already the balance had shifted. For once, I wasn't the one cornered. She was. And the best part? She didn't even realize it yet. I took another slow sip of water, savoring the pause, letting the silence stretch until it was almost unbearable. My mother-in-law fidgeted with her pearls. Funny thing about evidence, I said finally, my voice low but clear. It doesn't always say what you think it does. Her smile twitched. And that's when I knew I wasn't just going to defend myself tonight. I was going to end this little war once and for all. I placed my phone flat on the table, screen down, like a card in a high-stakes poker game. Everyone stared at it as if it were about to explode. What came next, none of them were ready for. I didn't flip the phone over right away. That would have been too easy. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, letting the weight of the moment settle on everyone. My mother-in-law shifted in her seat, clearly irritated that I wasn't flustered, wasn't begging, wasn't shrinking. That was her game, and I had just flipped the board. A week earlier, I never would have imagined I'd be here. I had actually looked forward to this dinner. Silly, I know. But part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could finally have a normal evening. I had picked out a dress I rarely wore, simple but elegant. I even baked a pie, thinking it would be a nice gesture, one less thing for her to criticize. On the drive over, I hummed along to the radio, telling myself this would be fine. My husband sat quietly beside me, eyes on the road. We hadn't fought in weeks, which in our house felt like a small miracle. When he glanced at me and smiled faintly, I thought maybe we were turning a corner. But then there was the first sign so small I almost brushed it off. When we walked in, she didn't greet me, didn't hug me, didn't even look me in the eye. She kissed my husband's cheek, patted his arm, then moved on to her daughter, fussing over her new earrings. I stood there holding the pie like an extra guest who'd wandered in uninvited. I told myself it didn't matter. I placed the pie in the kitchen and joined the others at the table. The conversation was polite, but strained. I noticed how she had set the seats, me directly across from her, like she wanted a perfect view. Her eyes kept darting to me, sharp and calculating, while her smile at everyone else stretched just wide enough to show teeth. Looking back, it was obvious. The whole evening had been staged. This wasn't about family dinner. This was a setup. It wasn't even the first time she had tried something like this. I remembered a barbecue 2 summers ago, when she accidentally mentioned in front of everyone that I had come home late from work 3 nights in a row. She said it innocently, like small talk, but the undertone was unmistakable. What was I really doing out so late? I had laughed it off then, claiming the hospital shifts ran long. But I saw the way my husband's jaw clenched, how the seed of doubt had been planted. Another time, she found a business card in my purse, one from a male coworker who had helped me carry boxes during a move. She waved it in front of my husband like a red flag. I had to explain, defend, prove myself again. Each time, she didn't accuse outright. She just suggested, nudged, left enough space for suspicion to grow. And every time, I swallowed my pride. I told myself she was family, that keeping peace was worth more than winning. But sitting at that table, with her voice cutting through the room like a blade, I realized she had been rehearsing for this moment all along. She wanted to expose me, humiliate me, break us. But what she didn't know was that I had learned. I remembered the exact night things shifted. It was late, nearly midnight, when I overheard her on the phone. She was in the kitchen, whispering furiously to someone. My name came up, followed by the word affair. I froze in the hallway, heart thudding, listening as she spun a story about me meeting men after work. The lies rolled so easily off her tongue it chilled me. That night, I made a choice. I started saving things. Receipts from late shifts, copies of my work schedules, even a screenshot or two when she texted something passive-aggressive and then deleted it. I never thought I'd need them, but some part of me knew. Knew this day was coming. Now here it was. At the table, I could feel everyone's eyes boring into me. My husband's especially. His face was unreadable, but I saw the crease between his brows, the uncertainty. That hurt most of all that even for a second, he might believe her. I tapped the phone again, steady, deliberate. "Do you want me to show you where I really was last week?" I asked, looking straight at him. My mother-in-law shifted, her pearls clinking against the glass. "I have receipts," I continued. "Hospital shifts, security logs, even camera footage." The room buzzed with a low murmur. My sister-in-law's fork clattered to her plate. My father-in-law adjusted his glasses, suddenly very interested in his water glass. But my mother-in-law? She went pale. Just a flicker, but I saw it. Her hand twitched against the tablecloth. She hadn't expected me to fight back. I leaned forward now, voice low but steady. "So, before you accuse me again, maybe we should all take a look at the truth." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time in years, she looked small. And as I sat there, watching the shock ripple through the table, I realized something. This wasn't just about clearing my name. It was about showing her and everyone else that I wasn't going to be her silent target anymore. I turned the phone over, screen lighting up the table like a spotlight. And that's when everything started to unravel. The glow from my phone screen cast a pale light over the table, illuminating every nervous glance, every twitch, every shallow breath. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the kids had gone quiet, sensing something seismic was about to crack open. I unlocked the screen, the soft click sounding impossibly loud. My thumb hovered over the folder I had created weeks ago, labeled simply, Proof. It wasn't dramatic, just a neat collection of screenshots, receipts, and time-stamped records. But to me, it felt like holding a weapon. "You say you saw messages," I said slowly, still looking at her. "Then let's look at the actual ones." My mother-in-law's eyes flickered to my husband. For the first time that evening, she looked nervous. "She's bluffing," she said quickly, her voice just a little too sharp, a little too fast. I tilted the phone toward my husband. The first screenshot filled the screen. My work schedule from the hospital system, the same nights she claimed I'd been sneaking around. Next to it, the time-stamped security log from the employee entrance. Then, a photo taken from the parking lot camera showing me walking in at 6:02 p.m., tired, hair tied back, bag slung over my shoulder. "This is where I was," I said, my voice steady. Not at a bar, not with anyone else. At work. The cousins leaned closer, squinting at the screen. My sister-in-law's lips parted like she wanted to say something, then thought better of it. My father-in-law cleared his throat again, but still didn't look up. I swiped to the next file. "And here," I continued, "are the messages you conveniently left out. On the screen were text exchanges between me and a coworker, short, professional, and nothing close to romantic. The same texts she must have seen, but twisted. She had taken screenshots of 2 lines, me saying, 'Thanks for staying late tonight,' and him replying, 'Anytime.' Out of context, maybe it looked suspicious, but I had the full conversation. Dozens of messages about patient care, shift swaps, and paperwork. I zoomed in on the date stamps. 'He covered my shift when I was sick last month. That's the man you're accusing me of seeing. He's married, with 2 kids. His wife bakes cookies for the night shift. But sure, tell the family I'm sneaking around.' The silence was deafening. My husband's eyes darted across the screen, scanning each line, his brow tightening. My mother-in-law shifted again, twisting her napkin in her hands. 'It's easy to fake those things,' she muttered. 'Anyone can make screenshots these days.' 'Then explain this,' I said, swiping once more. A video clip loaded, grainy but clear enough. Security camera footage of me clocking out at nearly midnight, yawning, rubbing my eyes, and waving goodnight to 2 other nurses. I placed the phone in the center of the table. 'Do you want to call them? They'll vouch for me. Every single one.' Her face drained of color. The cousins exchanged wide-eyed glances. One of them even stifled a laugh. But my husband was staring at the phone, his jaw tight, his breathing heavy. When he finally looked at me, his eyes were raw, conflicted, but clearer than before. "Why didn't you show me this earlier?" he asked quietly. The question stung, but I didn't let it show. "Because I shouldn't have to prove my innocence every time your mother decides to invent a story," I replied, my voice calm but edged with steel. "I trusted you to know me better than that." That landed like a thunderclap. He flinched, his lips parting as if to respond, then closing again. Around us, the weight of the moment pressed down like a storm cloud ready to burst. My mother-in-law slammed her hand against the table, rattling the silverware. "Don't let her turn this on me," she snapped. "She's manipulative, she's twisting things. Can't you see what she's doing?" For the first time all night, my husband turned to her, his voice low but sharp. "Enough." The words sliced through the air. She blinked at him, stunned. "I've listened to your accusations for years," he continued, his tone trembling with suppressed anger. "Every time, I gave you the benefit of the doubt. But this is too far." Her mouth opened and closed, like she couldn't decide whether to shout or plead. "I was protecting you," she whispered. "I don't want her ruining your life." "Ruining it?" he shot back. "She's the only one holding it together." That silenced even the whispers from the cousins. My chest ached, my hands trembling beneath the table, but I held still, letting the words hang in the air. I thought maybe that would be the end, that he had finally seen through her. But then his gaze returned to me, full of something I hadn't expected: guilt, sorrow, and a trace of shame. "I need to think," he said quietly, standing from the table. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. He walked out without another word, leaving the rest of us in stunned silence. Every eye swung back to me. My mother-in-law's lips curled into the faintest smile, like even in defeat she thought she had won something. And as I sat there, staring at the empty doorway, one thought echoed louder than the rest. This wasn't over, not even close. The door clicked shut behind my husband, and the sound echoed like a gavel striking down in judgment. My breath caught in my throat. For a moment, no one moved. The chandelier above flickered slightly, as though even the lights were uneasy. My mother-in-law was the first to break the silence. She leaned back in her chair, her lips curving into a smirk that made my skin crawl. "See," she said softly, almost sweetly. "He's not sure. He knows something isn't right." I stared at her, my chest burning, fingers clenched tight around the edge of the table. The others shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes, as if pretending they hadn't just witnessed an ambush. My sister-in-law fiddled with her necklace, her face pale. My father-in-law suddenly found the salt shaker very interesting. I wanted to scream. I wanted to leap across the table and demand she admit what she had done. But instead I drew in a long, shaky breath. My voice, when it came, was calm, almost too calm. "You've spent years trying to drive a wedge between us. Tonight was supposed to be your masterpiece. But you underestimated me." Her smile faltered for the briefest second, but she quickly recovered. "No one needed me to do anything," she replied. "All I did was tell the truth. If your marriage is cracking, maybe you should ask yourself why." The cruelty in her tone sliced deep, but I refused to let it show. I reached for my phone again, flipped through the files, and then set it down face up on the table. "The truth," I said, meeting her gaze. "That's exactly what I've been showing. But truth terrifies you, doesn't it? Because it's the one thing you can't control." The cousins whispered among themselves, their voices low but urgent. I could feel the air tightening, like a storm pulling everything into its orbit, and then I did something I hadn't planned. I turned toward the group, toward every set of eyes now darting nervously between me and her. "You've all heard her stories about me," I said. "Every holiday, every dinner, she finds a way to twist something into a weapon. I've let it slide. I've bitten my tongue. But not anymore. Tonight, you all saw the proof. Tonight, you all saw who the liar really is." Her hand slammed against the table, rattling glasses and silverware. "How dare you?" she shouted. "You come into my family, into my home, and call me a liar?" "Yes," I said simply. The word landed heavy, decisive, because that's exactly what you are. For the first time, the mask slipped. Her face hardened, her eyes narrowing into sharp, glittering points of rage. She leaned across the table, her voice low and venomous. "You'll regret this." I leaned forward too, closing the space between us until only a few inches remained. My voice was steady, measured, but every word carried the weight of years of swallowed anger. "No," I whispered. "You will." The room fell into stunned silence. No one dared breathe too loudly. Even the hum of the refrigerator in the next room seemed distant. She sat back slowly, her nails digging into the arm of her chair, knuckles pale. I had never seen her look so cornered. My sister-in-law finally broke the silence. "Mom, maybe we should just—" "Quiet," my mother-in-law snapped, silencing her daughter with one sharp word. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. I gathered my bag from beside my chair, slipping the phone inside. My legs trembled, but I forced myself to stand tall. "I'm not staying here another minute," I said, my gaze sweeping the table. "If my husband wants to talk, he knows where to find me. But I won't sit here and be a punching bag for your lies." I turned, walking toward the door. The hardwood creaked beneath each step, and I felt every eye on my back. My heart pounded, my throat tight, but I didn't look back. Not once. Behind me, I heard her voice rise again, sharp and desperate. He'll see who you really are." I stopped at the door, my hand on the knob. Without turning, I said, "He already has." Then I walked out. The night air hit me like a shock, cool and crisp, clearing the suffocating tension clinging to my skin. I stood on the porch for a long moment, breathing deeply, staring out at the dark street. My car sat in the driveway, a silent invitation to leave it all behind. But my chest ached, because as strong as I had just been, the truth was gnawing at me. My husband hadn't defended me. Not fully. He had walked away. And I didn't know yet what that meant. I slid into the driver's seat, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I could still hear her voice echoing in my ears, that smug certainty that she had planted enough doubt to haunt him. As I started the engine, headlights washing over the quiet street, one thought burned hotter than the rest. The battle tonight was over, but the war at home had only just begun. The drive home felt endless, even though it was barely 15 minutes. My hands stayed locked on the steering wheel, knuckles stiff, eyes fixed on the glowing road ahead. Streetlights flickered past like flashes of memory, every jab, every smirk, every whisper from my mother-in-law replaying in my head. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I could barely feel my fingers. I sat in the car for a long moment, engine idling. The house loomed in front of me, dark except for one light burning in the living room. My stomach twisted. He was already home. When I finally stepped inside, the air was heavy, charged. My husband sat on the couch, elbows on his knees, his phone tossed carelessly on the coffee table. He didn't look up right away. I set my bag down quietly. "So," I said, my voice rough from holding back too much for too long, "are we going to talk about what just happened?" He dragged his hands over his face, then finally looked at me. His eyes were tired, conflicted, carrying the weight of everything unspoken. "I don't even know where to start." My chest tightened. "Start with this," I said. "Do you believe her, or do you believe me?" The silence that followed felt like a punch. He didn't answer right away. His jaw worked, his brow furrowed, but no words came. I let out a shaky laugh, bitter and sharp. "That's all I need to know." "Wait," he said quickly, standing. "It's not that simple." "Not that simple?" My voice rose despite myself. "She accused me of cheating, in front of everyone. I showed you proof. I showed you everything. And instead of standing by me, you walked out." He winced, his hands clenching at his sides. I needed space. I didn't want to say something I'd regret. "What you regret," I shot back, "is that a part of you actually believed her." He didn't deny it. And that silence cut deeper than any words. I turned away, pacing across the room, my heels clicking against the hardwood. Do you have any idea what that felt like? To sit there, humiliated, while your mother tried to destroy me? To know you were looking at me and wondering if she was right? I didn't know what to think, he finally burst out, his voice cracked, raw and desperate. "She's my mother. She's been in my ear for years. You don't just turn that off overnight. I stopped, spinning back toward him. And I'm your wife, the person you vowed to trust, to protect, to believe in. Does that mean nothing to you? His face crumpled, guilt shadowing his features. Of course it means something. It means everything. He broke off, shaking his head. I let her get to me. I let her poison everything. The admission didn't soothe me. It only made the ache sharper. Because he was right, she had poisoned us, and he had let her. I sank into a chair, burying my face in my hands. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the hum of the refrigerator and the faint tick of the wall clock. Finally, I spoke, my voice muffled but firm. This can't go on. I won't live like this anymore, constantly proving myself, constantly fighting her lies, constantly wondering if you'll take her side. He crouched in front of me, his hands hovering near mine but not touching. Then tell me what to do, he said softly. Tell me how to fix this. I lifted my head, meeting his eyes. You already know, I said. It's not about me, it's about her. Either you set boundaries with your mother, or there's no marriage left to save. The words hung between us like a challenge, sharp and final. He swallowed hard, his gaze dropping to the floor. You're asking me to choose. No, I corrected, my voice steady. She's the one who made it a choice. I'm just not going to keep pretending anymore. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Not fear of me, but of losing me. His shoulders slumped, and he exhaled slowly, like the weight of years had finally pressed down all at once. I'll talk to her, he said at last, the words quiet but heavy. Really talk. No more excuses. No more letting it slide. A part of me wanted to believe him, wanted to cling to that small thread of hope. But another part, the part that had been burned too many times, whispered not to trust so easily. I leaned back, exhaustion flooding through me. Then we'll see, I murmured. Actions, not promises. He nodded, his expression unreadable. And in that moment, I realized the night wasn't over. Not really. The dinner had ended, the accusations had been fought off, but the real test, the one that would decide the future of our marriage, was only beginning, because a line had been drawn. And whichever side he stepped onto next would change everything. The following morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee drifting through the house. For a moment, just a moment, I almost forgot the night before. The sun was streaming through the blinds, birds chirped outside, and everything looked deceptively ordinary. But then I rolled over, and the empty side of the bed reminded me things were anything but ordinary. He was already up. I found him in the kitchen, pacing in front of the counter, mug in hand. His phone buzzed on the table, screen lighting up with her name. His jaw clenched as he stared at it. He didn't pick up. That alone was different. Usually, he answered her calls immediately, no matter what. He finally looked at me, eyes tired but clearer than I'd seen in a long time. She's been calling since 7, he said. His voice was flat, but there was something behind it. Resignation, maybe resolve. What are you going to do? I asked carefully, watching him. He set the mug down, rubbing a hand over his face. What I should have done years ago. When he finally picked up, I could hear her voice spilling out, sharp and fast even from across the room. She was demanding, defensive, trying to twist the night before into her narrative. He listened for a few seconds, then cut in. Stop. Just stop. Silence. Even she wasn't expecting that. This ends now, he said, his voice firmer with each word. I'm done with the accusations. I'm done letting you control everything. You crossed a line last night, and you don't get to come back from that by pretending it didn't happen. Her voice rose, shrill and desperate, but he didn't let her steamroll him this time. He ended the call with a quiet, I need space. Don't call again until you're ready to respect my wife. Then he placed the phone face down on the counter, his hand shaking just slightly. I stood frozen, unsure if I should feel relief, disbelief, or both. He turned to me, his expression raw, vulnerable. It's not fixed, he admitted. Not yet. But I'm choosing you. I should have chosen you a long time ago. The words washed over me like both a balm and a wound. I wanted to believe him. And maybe, for the first time, I actually could. The day stretched on quietly, a fragile piece hanging over the house. We didn't talk much, but the silence wasn't hostile. It was healing, in a way, like we were both trying to stitch something back together without saying the obvious that the scar would never fully fade. That evening, as I sat on the porch watching the sky turn shades of gold and violet, he came out and joined me. For once, there was no phone in his hand, no distraction, just us. "She won't give up easily," I said softly, staring at the horizon. "I know," he replied. His voice carried both weariness and determination. "But I won't either. Not this time." I nodded, feeling a quiet strength settling in me. For years I had swallowed my pride, endured her barbs, let her dictate the rhythm of our marriage. But last night had shifted something. Not just for him, but for me. Because here's the truth. Standing up for yourself doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes it looks like gathering proof, speaking calmly, refusing to bend even when the room is against you. Sometimes it looks like walking away, not because you're weak, but because you finally know your worth. And maybe that was the biggest lesson of all. I can't tell you everything ended perfectly. It didn't. There were more arguments ahead, more late-night conversations, more boundaries that had to be set and defended. Trust had to be rebuilt, slowly, carefully. But something fundamental had changed. She had lost her grip on us. And once a person like that loses their grip, they rarely get it back. I don't know if my mother-in-law truly realized what she lost that night. Maybe she still believes she can win, that she can twist the story again. But the difference now is that I'm not playing her game anymore. Neither of us are, and that to me is victory enough. If you've been following this story, thank you for staying with me through every moment. The doubt, the proof, the confrontation, the choice. These aren't easy things to talk about, but maybe they're the things that need to be shared most. Because if you've ever been in my shoes feeling like you're constantly defending yourself against lies or manipulation, I want you to know this. You're not alone, and you don't have to stay silent. There are more stories like mine and more lessons hidden in them. If you want to hear how they unfold, if you want to be here the next time the truth hits the table like it did for me, make sure you subscribe. That way, you'll be here for the next chapter. Because trust me, there's always a next chapter.